All right, well, a good Sunday to you. I'm meteorologist John Dawson. This is the Fox 26 Tropical Update. We get it geared and focused just for you folks on YouTube so we can spend a little bit more time talking about what's happening here. We're here every day of the hurricane season, weekend, holidays, every day, keeping you updated. And we've got some activity, of course. If you've been keeping track, we've certainly been interested in a couple named storms in the Atlantic, and the first of those is going to be Lee. Hurricane Lee actually weakened a little bit since my last update, was downgraded to a Category 2 hurricane, but within the last several hours, hurricane hunters have been flying through there and recognizing that strengthening taking place once again, and so kind of on the rebound just a little bit here, back to a Category 3 hurricane status with maximum sustained winds at about 120 miles per hour. And again, this information that I'm sharing is the 4 p.m. update on Sunday afternoon, and then we'll see how this progresses, but it does look like strengthening is going to continue to be expected. The speed is not going to change much. It's actually going to slow down a little as we move forward through time a little bit, but I think the current speed is going to kind of hold steady. We're going to look at some of the computer models here in a moment, and you'll be able to see how that speed is slowing down and speeding up. But you can also see that just in the forecast track. Remember, these icons are each representing a 24-hour period. So our current location with maximum sustained winds of 120 miles an hour, Category 3 hurricane. By tomorrow afternoon, we're looking for 140 mile an hour winds. That's a Cat 4. We'll do a Cat 4 again on Tuesday. Wednesday, see how close these are together here? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, there's not a lot of spacing. That's that slow movement that we're seeing. But by the time we get to Wednesday, in the afternoon especially, we begin to pick up that speed a little bit. We're spacing these out and doing even more so. We're thankful that we begin to see the weakening the further on that we get here into our 5-day forecast cone, because, as I mentioned on some of our modeling here in a minute, it's getting a little closer to the East Coast than what we want. And there are still enough questions about the track of Hurricane Lee that if you are on the East Coast of the U.S., not really Florida, don't think that's going to be a concern, and probably not the Carolinas, but north of that, the New England area, we'll just round it off and say the New England area of the U.S., that's something that you're definitely wanting to keep an eye on Hurricane Lee, because there's just enough questions at this point that there might be some changes in the path as we move through the next couple of days, especially since we're just not making a lot of movement overall in a 3-day period. We're not expecting it to really travel all that further. That still gives it plenty of other opportunities to alter its path just a little bit, depending on how some of those steering components get involved with the system. So this is Hurricane Lee. We're going to see on our FUTURECAST here, this is the European model, of the Euro. So I'm going to show you the GFS, or the American model, here in just a moment, but we're going to start with the European model. They're both pretty similar. There's not something that they're going to have drastic differences in what they're showing. The trends are the same. We see that slow movement. We see that strengthening, those pressure bars getting closer together, representing that more powerful storm. You'll notice, though, here behind me, we're going to look at Margot a little bit closer in a minute, but this is Margot out here, and look how, you might have noticed how far Margot moved with how little movement that we saw in Lee. And then just the opposite is going to happen here starting on Wednesday evening through the next several days. Is we'll see Lee speed up and we'll see Margot slow down. We'll give it a better look at Margot in a minute, but here is Lee beginning to speed up. And as we talked about, if you're in the New England area, that's certainly something that you're going to pay close attention to when you see a forecast that's this far out. Again, this is basically 6 to 7 days away from here, from where we are now, 6 days out. That's a little closer than where we want things to be to this part of the East Coast of the U.S., and continuing to move up and possibly even, again, looking like it might even be able to make a U.S. landfall. Canada for sure, keeping a close eye on things. So as I talked about, just some questions still exactly when we're 7 days out on our FUTURECAST. Things can change a little bit. So that's why we're keeping an eye for sure on what Hurricane Lee is doing. And as I talked about, when we look at Tropical Storm Margot, it's sort of the opposite. We see that speed a little higher currently moving at 9 miles an hour to the north. And then look how things really slow down here at the end. This is Thursday. This is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that 3-day period, very little movement, whereas this is going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on that 3-day period. Currently, tropical storm, 65-mile-an-hour winds. So by tomorrow afternoon, by Monday afternoon, could be a hurricane with a Category 1, not expected to really strengthen much more than a Category 1, and still staying out in the Atlantic. So that's what we're expecting with Margot, not going to be interacting with land, but we'll see here in that computer modeling, as we talked about. I just wanted to sort of show that difference and how different speeds are kind of out there and happening. So here's Margot. This is Lee. Again, watch how fast Margot is moving. It's almost like they're racing, and Lee down there just barely moving any at all. Margot's covered quite a bit of difference. Of course, I moved the camera here a little bit with our pacing, so you can kind of see not as clear on the speed difference. But then Wednesday night, just the opposite starts happening. We're going to see Margot slam on the brakes, and we're going to see Lee start that northerly track, and it speeds up. I think it's good news that it's speeding up. Also, the fact that it's weakening as it continues to move. Now, while it weakens, you'll see the size of it not changing that much. So Lee, something we're going to keep an eye on. It's going to definitely be a major hurricane, at least a Category 4, if not at some point a Category 5, while it's out in the ocean. As it gets closer to the New England area, up into Canada, it will definitely weaken. Tomorrow is the 11th of September, that is the 11th. Today is the peak, September the 10th. Today is the peak of hurricane season. So yesterday was the 9th of September, by the way, if you're just following along, keeping track. The day is the 10th. Today is the peak of hurricane season, and we'll continue to see, hopefully, things slow down just a little bit. So how are we doing so far here in the season? Now, of course, we're not expecting to be halfway through the activity of this season. We're just sort of at that halfway point. We know, historically speaking, that August and September and October are the busiest times of the year. So don't think that we have to be halfway through our numbers so far. We're not, but we're definitely moving a little bit ahead of pace, I think, overall. So far this year, we've had 13 named storms. Now, just for the record, we've actually had 14 storms total. We had a tropical depression that was early before the season started, that was actually identified much, much later, so it wasn't given a name. So just a little technicality there as far as the fact that we've had 13 named storms. So a tropical storm or hurricane, that's how many we've had. So we've had a total of the 13. We've had 4 of those become hurricanes, 3 of those becoming major hurricanes. Lee, one of those. Lee was a major hurricane yesterday, and it is today, as a matter of fact, as well. Even though it weakened, it'll continue to strengthen and become one once again. The average season, anytime the National Weather Service refers to averages, it's always taking a 30-year average. The current 30-year average that's being used is from 1991 to 2020. And so during that average season, 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, 3 major hurricanes. So we're a little behind on our hurricanes. Of course, there's time for that to increase. We'll probably get at least one more with Margot, and then plenty of more time for more activity to be happening overall. But that's what we've done so far. Glad you found us here on YouTube. Just a quick reminder, of course, you're welcome to subscribe to that. A lot more information here on the Fox 26 channel besides just the hurricane information. We've got lots of other news stories as well. On YouTube, it's easiest if you search meteorologist John Dawson if you want to find me. I hope you're already finding me at least on one of these. Instagram is where I think most of the hurricane information is going to be, and Facebook as well. Well, Twitter, X, just go ahead and follow all of them, at John Dawson, Fox 26. But here on YouTube, subscribe to my channel if you would like. It's Meteorologist John Dawson, the best way to search for that. That'll do it for today's update. Make sure you check back again tomorrow for the latest on Lee and everything else going on in the Atlantic.